Good morning, partners. I'm going to be making a commentary on Second Kings chapter 19 today. So, in Second Kings chapter 19, we actually witnessed a masterclass in handling an existential crisis. So, the chapter started with, a psychological assault where King Sennacherib of Assyria sends a letter to King Hezekiah. So I want us to put it at the back of our mind that the Assyrian army were one powerful, it was a very powerful army. You can even equate the Assyrian army then to what the US army looks like in this our modern day. The Assyrian army was the most powerful military force in the ancient Middle East then. And now King Sennacherib of Assyria sent a letter to Hezekiah, giving them reasons why hope was a delusion for them. And Hezekiah's reaction, I want it to be our first learning point in today's commentary. When he received that letter, he didn't gather his parliament, his cabinet, or how they refer to that as a then. What he did was basically to go to the temple and spread a letter out before the Lord. So in verse 14, the Bible says, Hezekiah went up to the temple of the Lord and spread it out before the Lord. It takes the physical evidence of his fear and he now made it God's problem. He acknowledged the reality of that threatening. In verse 17, he said, "It is true, Lord, that the Assyrian kings have laid waste these nations and their land." But he now went in verse 19 to tell God, he said, "Now, Lord our God, deliver us from his hand, so that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that you alone, Lord, are God." It's a very, very powerful chapter for us in today's world. We all have our letters, the kind of letter King Hezekiah got. It might be a medical report about your health condition declining, about something you don't want in your body. It might be a legal notice regarding something, a property, regarding an issue. It might even be problems regarding relationships, marriages, and all. But what I want us to do is what Hezekiah did today. Instead of whining around, moving around, we should lay down to God like the first thing. Instead of looking for horizontal search for human solution, we can go for that vertical appeal for divine intervention. Go straight to God, because He has the solution. When our goals align with God's reputation, our perspective on problems, it changes. So now, Isaiah comes in at the point in this chapter. Said through Isaiah, God tells the Assyrian king that his arrogance, has blinded him. And they asked him, if you look at verse 22, he said, "Who is it you have insulted and blasphemed, against whom you have raised your voice and lifted your eyes in pride? Against the Holy One of Israel." So this verse also tells us about what power does to people. King Sennacherib of Assyria, he thought his victories were of his own doing. He had pride. But in verse 25, God said, "Have you not heard? Long ago I ordained it. In the days of the old I planned it. Now I have brought it to pass." So it is trying to tell us that at times it is easy for us to believe that, our successes are a product of our brilliance, our intelligence, our knowledge, But this 2 Kings 19 reminds us that God is the power or is the higher authority. So God promised Hezekiah that the enemy would not even, shoot any arrow, blow anything near the city. In verse 34, he said, I will defend this city and save it for my sake and for the sake of David, my servant. So God reminds us about his protection, his faithfulness, and his own promises. So in the ending of this chapter 19, in verse 35, it says, that night the angel of the Lord went out and put to death 185,000 in the Assyrian camp. So God solved that crisis in one single night, just the way Paul and Silas also broke out one night. Then that king Sennacherib was forced to retreat in shame. But it didn't end there. He now got murdered by his own son while he was worshipping his God. So I want us to apply, some of these things in our lives today about Hezekiah and the Sennacherib. There are some time we are in that waiting period where there's tension where, there are problems from outside, but we feel like miracle hasn't happened yet. So from this chapter, we can see that God's silence is not the same as his absence. God was really working, why the people of Jerusalem were, sleeping in fear. So what are the Assyrian moments we have in this present day? We can lead them out. Like I said, is it relationship problem? Is it career problem? Is it financial issues, marriage issues, health issues? Just write it out, spread it before the Lord, like Hezekiah did. So, and I know God will be with us, and He has always been with us, and He would be with us. So, in conclusion, we realize that the greatest miracle wasn't just the deliverance of that city. It was the peace of a king that trusted in the Lord when everything was falling apart. So, in our own life, when everything is at stake, the night is at its darkest, we have voices of doubt at their loudest, we should remember that story is not just over because we can't see the solution yet, because God is often most active when we are most still. And I want us to end with a popular verse, Psalms 46. Let us carry these Psalms with us. Verse 1 to it said, God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear. Though the earth give away, the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, be still and know that I am God. So let us have that verse rather in our heart, because the battle is not ours, but it is for God. Have a great day, partners.